Hi, Dr. Reagan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
I may go talk to that employee about tracking and looking at numbers and all that, but the truth is the team is the one who's going to eventually make it to where that person is really not a part of the team anymore. And it becomes very easy to let those people go or to invite them to their happy place.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Bruce B. Baird, and you're listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. In this podcast, I will give you everything that I've learned over the last 40 years in dentistry, working with thousands of dentists. I'll tell you, it's not that my way is the only way. It's just one that has worked extremely well for me, and I'd love to share that with you so you too can enjoy the choices and lifestyle that productivity allows. More time for things you love, increased pay, better team relationships, and lowered stress. Let's get into it with this week's episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.
Hi, this is Dr. Bruce Baird with the Productive Dentist Podcast. I hope you guys are having a good year. This is the time of the year to start to plan for the future. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I wanted to talk a little bit about office culture and what I call the front office versus the back office. And it's not funny because it's a major disaster in most offices. You've got this, you want to have this gelled team, you want to have everybody on the same page, yet the systems that you put in place don't allow that to happen. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it's, when you have a patient call at the front desk, your front office administrator answers the phone. They say, I want to set up an appointment. Now, that starts the process. That starts the problem right there. Because who is it that knows about the next appointment better than anybody else in the office? It's not that person at the front desk. It's that treatment coordinator who's been going through treatment with this patient, who did the presentation for treatment and worked out the financial arrangements and everything else. And then all of a sudden you have somebody give you a call and say, hey, I'm ready to set up an appointment. Because what ends up happening, we've talked about this in our scheduling segments and everything else, but it leads to this situation where now this front desk or this administrator puts a patient in Wednesday at 2:00 I'm just going to use in Gay's chair. Now, and nothing else is said. Now Gay looks and says, this is 5 days later, a week later, 2 weeks later, and sees this patient there and realizes that's not really where that patient should go. And so they say, well, can't believe you put a patient in right here. I can't believe that they did this. Great example would be the emergency slots. Most practices don't really have emergency slots. They just say, okay, good luck. If somebody has an emergency, let us know. We'll try to figure out a way to work them in. We work in all of our emergency patients, period. I don't care if we have to work through lunch. I don't care about that. But the truth is, rarely did we ever work through lunch. Rarely did we ever work late after 5 when we were closing. Why? Because we set up these times in our morning meeting. These are 6 places that we could put an emergency patient if need be. Okay. We don't use them sometimes. We also have inherent in our schedule is 2 emergency times right before lunch. So that if we don't have an emergency, guess what? you might be able to get off to lunch early. And I love that. I don't want it to be I don't want it to be such a stressful deal. But here you have the front office just sticks in a patient right at 12:30 because that's the only time they could come in was 12:30 because they're on their lunch hour. So is that really an emergency? And the person in the back would say, I can't believe this. Look, they stuck this right in the middle of my damn, right at lunch. We're going to have to see this patient. We're not going to get lunch. It's the same old, same old. I call that the Israeli-Palestinian issue. It's front versus the back. There is no solution. Well, you know what? I believe there is a solution. And it's how do you put your systems in place? What is your office culture? How do you take care of your patients? You know you have to see that patient, but we have to be able to communicate it better between our team. So what did we do? Well, about 15 years ago, I said, well, this system doesn't work. I don't like this front versus the back stuff. There has to be a better way. So what we began doing, we began saying, and this is verbal skills for your front office, and it can be, and this is just one example of what I'm talking about. But Bob calls up and says, I need to get set up for that appointment. I'm the front office administrator. I said, oh yeah, Bob. Okay. Well, I tell you what, it looks like on your treatment plan, you have a couple of crowns that need to be done. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what they were doing next, meaning they don't know. But yeah, I'm ready to get the next thing done. And so they said, okay, well, I tell you what, would Wednesday at 2:00 work for you? Yeah, that should be fine too. It's going to be a couple-hour appointment, but I tell you what, I'm going to put you down at this time, but I want to clear that with Summer because that's in Summer's chair and make sure that she has plenty of time to do everything that they need to do, that Dr. Baird and her needs to do. Would that be okay? Patients 100% of the time say, oh yeah, that's fine. All right, well, I'm going to have her, if everything's good, we're going to leave it at that time. I'm going to send you a reminder and we're going to leave it at that time. If she needs more time, she will reach out and call and talk to you. Okay? Okay, great. Boom, it's done. Now it's put on the schedule. Whose responsibility is the schedule? Well, the responsibility of that schedule is no longer the front office. It's no longer the front office. It now is Summer's. The monkey has been put on Summer's back. Why? Immediately when this appointment is made, our front office, Julie, will send a message back to Summer in our instant messaging and say, Summer, I put Bob at 3:00 and told him if we need to change it, that you would reach out. Now, Summer has the opportunity to reach out and say, gosh, we need more time. This is a surgical. We already have endo over here in room 2. I know Dr. Baird's going to be behind there. All the things that Summer knows because she has intelligence about that, she's going to handle it. And she'll call Bob. Now, how does she have time to call Bob? Well, let me tell you. Summer and Gay and Tamara and Shannon, they all confirm their own appointments every day. You got to be kidding. What does the front desk do? Well, trust me, the best relationship in the office is between that treatment coordinator and that patient. We try to keep them together. So now Summer reaches out, she talks to him, but what I don't ever hear anymore is this conflict, is this front versus the back, where Gay might say, well, I can't believe they put this person in here. I don't want to hear that, Gay. Did the system work? Did they send you an email? Or did they send you a text message? Yeah, they did. Okay, now it's on your back. You look at the schedule. You know where things should be for us to be most productive. And when we do that, what ends up happening is now the front and the back are working together to get this accomplished. And the patient is getting the best experience possible. No question about it. And so, well, how on earth do they see it? Well, let's just say I work out of 4 treatment rooms. It could be 2. You could have 2 treatment coordinators. I happen to have 4. So in a day, Gay might see 2 big cases, pretty long cases. Summer may see 7. Shannon may see 8 or 10. but they have time to call the patients for the next day and to tell them about their appointment, tell them about any financial arrangements, tell them all the things that they need to tell them, that the front office, the administrators up front, they're administrators. They're answering the phone. They're trying to answer questions, but it's better if there's a question asked about a treatment is to send a message back to Summer or Gay and have them handle it and deal with it. All of a sudden now, you've got an office that is had conflict all the time, and you've changed it to an office with no conflict, where the front desk is putting their arm around the treatment coordinators, and the treatment coordinators are putting their arm around the front desk. And, those are the things that leads to harmony. The us versus them environment has to be reworked. It has to be redone. It's very natural for that to happen when somebody sticks something right in the middle of your schedule when you don't know what's happening. I even get upset about it. I'm like, look, they just put a person in my emergency right there at lunch. And I would see that, and that would bother me. Gay would say, don't worry about it. It's real simple. They just broke a temp. I'll have it fixed in 5 minutes. Or, yep, it's a big deal. But they have to approve it. The people responsible for the schedule are the treatment coordinators in the practice. So that's part of that. And it's not really a lack of clarity. The front just doesn't have that information, whereas my treatment coordinator has perfect clarity about the case and where we're headed. Now, what if you have somebody, again, the us versus them, where you have an employee that is just not working, that's not part of the team. I love one of our coaches years ago said, if you can't play at our level, you don't get to play on our team. And how true is that? I mean, if the team is upset about somebody in the practice not working or sloughing off, and you'll see that over a period of time. What do we do for that? What do we do? How do we change? Well, we have to confront that situation. I may bring it up. I may go talk to that employee about tracking and looking at numbers and all that. But the truth is, the team is the one who's going to eventually make it to where that person is really not a part of the team anymore. And it becomes very easy to let those people go or to invite them to their happy place. They're not happy. They're taking advantage of other employees. And that, as a leader, you have to say, hey, I'm going to give you a chance to straighten this up. But these are the things that you're going to have to do. And then if it doesn't happen, we invite them to their happy place. So, and you can have personality conflicts. But what does is you're getting rid of a toxic work environment where people are constantly after each other. Yeah, you can have personality conflicts, relationship conflicts. That's going to require what I call a crucial conversation, which is a great book to read. Crucial conversations are what drive your business forward. You have to be able to have a crucial conversation. Nobody wants to have them. Nobody wants to tell somebody that they're not doing something a certain way, but you have to learn. I challenge you to read that book. Again, I talked before about doctor's ego, that you just have to get that out of the way. And I really believe, and there are some team members, I really believe there are some team members that feel undervalued. What I try to do is I try to help them. I try to help them prove their value to themselves. Because if you feel like you're undervalued, most of the time you're blaming others for what you could actually do to change. And I try to bring anecdotes of my own personal experiences, like saying, I did that before. I found that it took me actually having to have a conversation to solve this problem. Does that make sense? These are the things. And the final thing is getting mixed messages from leadership. You've got to stay consistent. You've got to know where you're going. You have to know what your why is. You have to say, this is going to be the best practice. I started in 1984 with, I want this to be a model practice, meaning a practice that could be duplicated anywhere. We never did, but I wanted it to be so structured that everyone could come in and again, early on, not so good at it, but we learned over a period of time. Don't beat yourself up. You know, if you're having problems in the practice, don't beat yourself up. But it's time to be introspective. It's time to look inside yourself and decide. And we can help you at Productive Dentist Academy. That's what we do. If we can get you out of yourself and into others, your productivity quadruples. We've seen practices go from 800,000 to 4 million in 3 years. Why? Because we got out of our own way. And so those are the things that I wanted to share with you guys today. Tell your friends about Productive Dentist Podcast. Reach out to us, Bruce at productivedentist.com. If you have a question, I get questions all the time. And that's where a lot of the podcast content comes from. Somebody asking a simple question and or a complex question. I'm okay with either one. So anyway, have a great holiday season. I hope to see you guys at our next meeting.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you subscribe. Pass it along to a friend. Give us a like on iTunes and Spotify, or drop me an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. Don't forget to check out other podcasts from the Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentistpodcast.com. Join me again next week for another episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.